this. Do you want to plug your nose at all?
Yeah.
You want to plug your nose with,
Okay.
right? And then plug your nose and then put your other arm right there. And then I will hold it right there. So are you ready to do this? On three,
On
I
three.
will baptize you.
Okay.
Ready? One. Oh, actually, let me say, I want to baptize you in the name of the Father, and
The
the
Son,
and
the Holy Spirit.
So I'm gonna count to
Amen.
three.
Thank
Amen.
you, Jesus. Thank you, God.
So I'm gonna count to three, and then I'm gonna baptize you. One, two, three. Congratulations. They give you a hug. They give you a hug. Oh my God.
You don't know what this means to me today.
We got it. Thank you. special gifts, taking time to be kind to one and all. It's that time of year when good friends are near, and you wish you could give more than the presents from the store. Why don't you give love on Christmas Day? Oh, even the man who has everything would be so happy if you would bring him love on Christmas Day. No greater gift is there than love. People you don't know, smiling at hello. Everywhere there's an air of Christmas joy. It's that once a year when the world's sincere, and you wish you'd find a way to show the things that words can't say. Why don't you give love on Christmas Day? Oh, the man on the street or the couple upstairs all need to know there's someone who cares. Give love on Christmas Day. No greater gift is there than love. What the world needs is love. Yes, the world needs your love. Why don't you give love on Christmas Day? Oh, every little child on Santa's knee has some love underneath the tree. Give love on Christmas Day. No greater gift is there than love.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. How we doing? Oh, come on. This is the noon crowd. Where y'all at? How we doing? Good. Awesome. Well, my name is Jalen. If I haven't had the opportunity to meet you yet, I'm the worship rights director here at our Troy campus. I also want to say hey to everybody on stream. So some of y'all just heard that and like, man, that was nice, but it's too early for Christmas music. So I'll just apologize for that, but I'm ready. I am ready for Christmas. But also I'm ready for Thanksgiving, which is coming up Thursday. It's crazy how fast it got here. But I want to celebrate something related to Thanksgiving. On yesterday morning, we all gathered at Harrington Elementary, which is one of our school partners, and we delivered over 1,700 Thanksgiving baskets across all of our campuses. And 400 of those baskets came right here from our Troy campus. We can celebrate that today. Those baskets went to families who otherwise may not have the means to provide a Thanksgiving meal for the holiday. So that's awesome what we can do when we join hands together in open-handedness. But like I said, we're coming up on Christmas, and if you know anything about Kensington, when it comes to Christmas, we do it really big. And so across all of our campuses, we'll be having 51 services. 11 of those Christmas services will be happening right here at our Troy campus. And so your free Christmas tickets are now available to go online and get. You can get them on the Kensington app, or you can also go online at kensingtonchurch.org and get them there. If you're having trouble navigating the app or the website, you can see someone out at the hub, and they'll be more than willing to help you with that after service. But like I said, I'm excited about today. Our teaching pastor, Andrew Kim, is in the house. Let's give it up for him. And today we're celebrating life change. This is our baptism services. All of our campuses, local campuses, are having baptism services today. And so excited about that. And we're also in the light of gratitude as well. That's what Andrew's talking about. But before we move on with the rest of our service, I want to invite you all to stand on your feet and greet someone next to you.
Have a little fun. Yeah. All right. If you know this song, sing along with us. Why don't you? Hey, I've been looking for hope. Been looking for strength. Been looking for someone that I can always call my friend. I guess I've been looking for you. I guess I've been looking for you. I've been looking for peace. Been looking for love. Been looking for a rock that I can always lean on. Yeah, I guess I've been looking for you. Oh, guess I've been looking for you. I've been looking for you, Jesus. Yes, I've been looking for you. Yes, I've been looking for you. Sing a song, why don't you, sister? Yeah. 'Cause I've been looking for someone to call when I need help. Been searching for someone to love me in spite of myself. I guess I've been looking for you. Oh, guess I've been looking for you. Oh, 'cause I've been looking for joy. I've been looking for truth. For a purpose in all that I do.
That was an amazing song. And at our last service, I was just standing right back there and I was just taking it all in. And I was almost like mesmerized. I was in this sort of like this trance because I was just like admiring the talent and how amazing this song was. And I realized it's the end of the song. I don't have my mic on. I'm sort of like half dressed from the previous baptism. So I sort of stumbled on stage. But that song is the perfect song really for where we're headed in the day. Because today is all about life change. It's about baptisms. And the people who are getting baptized are right over here at this service. Can we give them a huge hand? But today we're also talking about gratitude. And I can imagine for some of you today, coming here, that gratitude was tested. Am I right? Because it was a surprise to us that the corner of Square Lake and John R. was closed. And I could see heads nodding absolutely. So you get here and that normal route isn't closed and isn't open. And so you had to go around. And so thank you for choosing to persevere and to be here. And I can imagine people are going to continue to stream in as well. But as I think about baptisms and what's happening, it's already been an incredible morning where people not only signed up, they were baptized, and we had so many walk-ups as well. So many incredible stories of people saying, you know what, I want to be baptized today, and I want to publicly declare my decision to follow Jesus. And as I've been thinking about that, this weekend is the perfect weekend for this to happen. Because, of course, this Thursday is Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving can be a crazy and it can be a hectic time. But at the same time, it's also one of the most beautiful times of the year because it invites us to take a moment and pause and to reflect and remember all the incredible things that God has done, not only in our lives, but also in the life of our community. And when we do that, there is this sense of gratitude that rises up, which, as I mentioned, is what we're going to be talking about today. And it's also what we're going to be talking about at midweek this coming Wednesday at 7 o'clock in this room. And if you've never been to midweek, I want to invite you, I want to encourage you to come this coming Wednesday, because as I've been talking to people in our community over the past several weeks about this midweek, they've been saying to me, it's one of my favorites of the year. And so we're going to have fun, we're going to talk more about gratitude, and we're also going to have an open mic time where anyone who wants to come forward can do so and to share and express their gratitude to God. And I should also mention, we're going to have pie. Right, which is why a lot of you're going to come because of pie, right? And so there are a lot of people who are going to show up, and so we'd love for you to come. Bring the kids, invite your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, bring your family from out of town, because let's be real, what else are you going to do with them? And so come, and it is going to be an amazing, amazing night. But something that we also recognize is that God is always at work in our lives, creating something beautiful, doing something powerful. And right now, we're going to see the story of someone in our community right here at Troy, and her name is Melissa, about how she encountered God and met God about a year and a half ago and her journey since that time. So let's take a look.
So, I'm not really a religious person. Never really have been. But I've always wanted to learn more. I would love to believe in Jesus. It's not that I flat out don't, I'm just super skeptical. Hi everyone, I'm Melissa. I'm 35 years old, a mother to 3 beautiful little girls, and a wife to an awesome guy. Welcome to my blog. I'm a pretty open book in, most aspects of my life. So I don't know why I felt this awkwardness or almost like embarrassment to share this aspect of my life. But I feel that once I did, once I put it all on social media and I'm just like, let's be open, let's be vulnerable, let's just see what happens. I just want to be like completely authentic. This is not like the first time I've tried to seek the truth or my answers or God, Jesus, anything. I've been struggling this honestly since high school. Everything that is going on nowadays makes it even harder to know where to turn for sources on this stuff. I don't know. Anyone have any advice? Ideas?
I got 151 responses. And do you know of those 151 responses, how many were negative? 0. But there were 2 things that really stood out in those comments. Number 1, oh my gosh, Melissa, that's exactly how I feel. Oh my gosh, I'm going through that same thing. Please let me know what you find out. Blah, blah, blah. There's other seekers like me. And the other one was, check out Kensington, check out Kensington, check out Kensington. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, I'm not kidding you, at least 35 comments were, go to Kensington. One of my friends actually goes to the Troy campus. Actually, she's like, Melissa, I'm telling you, message the lead pastor of the Troy campus, Danny Cox, and see if he'll meet with you. He's awesome. You know, you might be really encouraged by talking to him. So I emailed him. I explained basically my life story to him. And I was like, can we meet for a couple minutes?
When I first met her, Melissa, I was taken with her right away because that's my journey. I saw myself in her. I had so many questions about Christ.
It took him, he said, 3 years to find Christ in his 30s. So I think, my gosh, if Danny Cox, the lead pastor of a large church, if it took him 3 years to find Christ, then you know what? I can do it too. The first service I went to at Kensington was the summer of 2018, and they were doing a series called Kensington at the Movies.
Today, we're going to continue on in this series by looking at Black Panther.
And the one I went to was on Black Panther. And Andrew Kim was preaching, and the message was amazing, and it totally hit home because he talked about the Mahatma Gandhi quote, I like your Christ, but I do not like your Christians.
Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. And when you hear that, it's like, ouch. That hurts, that cuts deep.
And I'm like, whoa. And the fact that Kensington recognized that, especially like on my first time there, it was really refreshing because I feel that a lot of churches just sweep that kind of stuff under the rug. Truthfully, the biggest issue I struggle with is Jesus really the Son of God? Another big question I have is there life after death? And it's really refreshing to know that here at Kensington, like, I'm not alone. Everybody doubts. Even like the Pope and Mother Teresa, they've had doubts. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Like, that makes me feel so good. So I've done a lot through Kensington. The first thing I did was I joined a course, Alpha. It just really made me open my eyes and think about things in ways I never had before. I went on a women's retreat through Kensington in the spring called Smash. I literally did all the workshops I could because I thought, you know what? I'm here by myself. I know no one. I'm here to learn.
All right, little girl, are you ready to go? And she's amazing. And just everybody I've come in contact with, not even the people who work here, just like the people that attend the service. I've met 1 million people here that have been amazing. Nancy Worm, she's sort of like a mentor to me, and she's amazing.
She said, I'm turning 35. I need to answer this question. I need to figure out my faith, not just for myself, but for my family now. And I don't want to wait any longer. This is the year I'm going to learn everything I need to make this decision. Having that mission has really spurred her on to take step after step after step to answer the questions that she has. She wants to land this.
My heart is open and exploding. I feel so happy. Do I still identify as a seeker? Yes. My brain needs to catch up with my heart.
I'm still in the beginning stages, maybe on like mile 10 of my 100-mile walk or whatever. But it doesn't bother me. I think once you take that leap of faith, once you take that leap and you jump off and you start your journey, you don't really care when it ends. You hear churches a lot, or people on the news or on TV, they have a lot of these aha moments when coming to Christ. But what I've learned is most people that find Christ, it's not this big aha moment. It's these little tiny things over the years. And I feel like that's me. I look at where I am now and I look at where I was like a year and a half ago, and I'm night and day difference, and it's amazing. My brain, the walls are coming down more, but it hasn't quite collapsed yet like I'd like it to.
Does this blog resonate with you? Are you seeking? Come take this journey with me. They say a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Take that first step. You will never regret the journey.
I remember that first meeting I had with Melissa. We met in the lobby and we sat down together, and she was so intense. She was searching for truth. We had a great conversation. I recommended one particular book. I think I actually even gave it to her, and she took it home and she wrote back. She's like, no, not this kind of book. I'm looking for this. So I gave her another one, and she read through that, and it's been like that ever since. She is on a mission to find out who this person of Jesus is. And what I love about her, and I think it's true for all of us, we have questions and we have doubts about faith. Even myself, to this day, I still have questions and doubts, and I don't think God is up in heaven wringing his hands going, I don't know how to answer that question. I'm not sure what to do with that doubt. God knows. And what I love about our community is that we are creating a space where people can come in with their doubts, with their questions, and engage with Jesus and with his people. And so this year, I would invite you to make a year-end Christmas gift to Kensington. And as you do that, I want you to know something. You are investing in a space where people can bring all they have in their heart and present it to Jesus. And here's what I know about Jesus. After watching work for so long in our community, he will take our questions, he will take our doubts, he will draw us into himself, and he will transform lives.
And I love Melissa's story. I love her honesty. I love her courage to be willing to share it. And when I watch her story, I'm reminded of the fact that this is what this community is all about. And because our mission statement here at Kensington is to see everyone transformed and mobilized by Jesus. That's why we exist. That is the heartbeat of this place. It's also one of the reasons why I love this place so much. And so as we come to the end of the year, I too wanted to ask if we would consider giving a year-end gift to Kensington. Because when we do, what it allows us to do as a community is to continue to reach and impact people, not just here in the Detroit metro area, but truly all around the world. And many of us, we caught a glimpse of this yesterday, because yesterday, as Jalen mentioned, we had all these Thanksgiving baskets that went out, more than 1,700. And it's estimated that what happened yesterday was able to impact the lives of almost 10,000 people just in this state. And when you think about it, that's incredible. That's where our giving goes to. And it also goes to impacting people's lives in places like South Sudan, Kenya, Brazil, the Dominican Republic, Israel, and all of these other places as well. And so, but at the same time, as we consider this, I also want to say thank you, because this community is made up of some of the most generous people I've ever met in my life, not just in terms of your finances, but also in terms of skills and time as well, which oftentimes can be an even more precious resource. And so thank you for choosing to live not like this, but like this, with your God-given resources, because especially in this culture, I recognize that it's a very, very difficult thing to do. And so this Thursday, of course, is Thanksgiving. And I love Thanksgiving. It is one of my favorite holidays of the year. And at least for me, it ranks right up there with Canada Day. Anyone else? No one, okay, just me. Oh, yeah, there you go. It's like, there you go. A fellow Canadian, I would imagine. That's great. And I love Thanksgiving probably for the same reasons that many of you do. Because of football, food, friends, and family, and not necessarily in that order. But Thanksgiving marks the beginning of one of the craziest times of the year, because we hit Thanksgiving and then we are off to the races. And before we know it, we're saying Happy New Year, because there's all the shopping that happens. And many studies tell us that in the next several weeks, for many of us, we will buy more than we will have bought in the previous 11 months. And there's good reason for that. There's all the deals that come up with Black Friday and with Christmas. And of course, there's all the Christmas gifts that we have to buy for everyone. And not just any gifts, the right ones. The right gifts for our children, our husband or our wife, our parents, our grandparents, cousins, aunts and uncles, nephews and nieces, co-workers, neighbors, the garbage person, the mail person. It seems like the list keeps on getting longer every single year. And with Christmas right around the corner, we also have to get the tree. And not just any tree again, the right one. We have to find it, somehow bring it home, set it up and decorate it. And every single year, many of us risk our lives by getting on our roof and having to put up Christmas lights. And that's what has to happen this year as well. And then there's the awkward office Christmas party that so many of us love. And it gets even more awkward when we have to go to our spouse's office Christmas party and we find ourselves every single year in the corner talking to the weird guy. And for some of us, what comes to mind when Christmas happens is that Christmas sort of is, before we can even get to Christmas, it's the end of the fiscal year for some of us. And so before we can even think of the holidays, there's this mountain of work that has to get done, all these deadlines that we have to hit. And then, as if Christmas weren't stressful enough, they let the kids out of school. And then, of course, there are the family vacations to go visit the in-laws, all the family that comes to town, and we all know that's not stressful. And so study after study tells us that we are entering into one of the busiest times of the year. And honestly, as I was saying all that, I could tell in some of your faces, your blood pressure was slowly rising, your stress level was slowly rising, and now you're sitting there like this, right? Aren't you glad you came to church today? Exactly. And so the question that I want to ask all of us in light of this is, how do we want to move through the holiday season this year? Do we want to be stressed, anxious, and exhausted and completely depleted come the new year? And I can't imagine anyone's like, yeah, sign me up for that. But my guess is that for every single one of us, we want to be able to breathe and experience more of the wonder and the beauty of Thanksgiving and Christmas. And if that is us, I want to remind us of a practice today that will not only change the way that we move through this season, but if we continue to do that, it has the power to transform our lives by connecting us in a greater way with the timeless, the sacred, and the profound. And it's the practice of gratitude. And in the Gospel of Luke, we see the power of gratitude in an interaction that Jesus had with 10 men. And this is what it says. Luke writes, "Now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. And as he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. And they stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, 'Jesus, Master, have pity on us.'" And chances are very good that no one in this room or no one watching via stream has ever had leprosy. And that's a good thing because it's not exactly the best disease to contract. And back in Jesus' day, and actually today, modern medicine has largely eradicated leprosy. But back in Jesus' day, there was no cure, and people also believed that it was highly contagious. And what happens with leprosy is that a person with leprosy, they lose sensation in the nerve endings, which means that they can't feel anything. Their hand could be on fire and they wouldn't know it. And in advanced cases of the disease, a person's fingers and toes can even fall off. And so back in the 1st century AD, during Jesus' day, if you discovered, the day that you discovered that you had leprosy would have been the worst day of your life. Because from that day forward, you wouldn't have been able to hug your children. You wouldn't be able to sleep next to your husband or your wife. You can never ever go to the temple again to worship God. You would be cast out of society, rejected. And so what it meant to be a leper was that you had to endure incredible physical pain from the disease, emotional pain from people expressing to you with their words and their actions, you do not belong. And also spiritual pain in never being able to go to the temple to connect with God. And so these 10 men, they had leprosy. They were rejected, they were pushed out, they were on the margins of society, totally alone. And they found each other and they created their own community. And one day, they saw Jesus walking by. And they knew who Jesus was. They had heard all the stories about what he had done, how he had healed people of terrible diseases. And so they knew that he was their only hope because nobody else could help them. And so they cried out to Jesus, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." Sort of in a similar way, just like if we were on a deserted island and we saw a plane coming towards us, we would do anything and everything we could to get that pilot's attention, understanding that he or she was our only hope. That's exactly what these 10 guys were doing. And when they cried out to him, this was Jesus' response. When he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. And what strikes me about this passage is that what no one wanted to have anything to do with these 10 guys. They avoided them, they ignored them. Nobody wanted to help them. No one would even come near them. When they saw them, they would run the other way, except for Jesus. Because Jesus didn't run the other way, but he actually moved towards them. And this is exactly what Jesus does for us today as well. that no matter what we have experienced, no matter what we have done, or no matter what has been done to us, and maybe for some of us here, we walked in here thinking, you know what, I've done too many terrible things in my life, or I've had too many terrible things done to me in my life. Jesus could never want me, he could never accept me, he could never love me, he could never ever use me. And if you believe that, and that is what you are thinking, let me say that is a total lie. Because what we see in this story and what we see all throughout the scriptures is something that is completely the opposite. Because rather than running away from us, what we see every single time that Jesus does is he moves towards us. And he moves towards us with love, with forgiveness, with acceptance, and an extraordinary kindness. And when we respond and we move towards him as well, and we come to him, and we lay the broken pieces of our lives at his feet, he is able to do something for us that no one else in this world is able to do. He is able to take those broken pieces and to create his masterpiece, create something extraordinarily beautiful in our lives. And that's what we see happens in this story. Because what Jesus told these guys to do is that he told them, go see the priest. And the priest's function back in that day was not only to lead the people in worship, but also he also functioned as a health inspector. And so if someone was sick and had a disease and they thought they were clean, they would go to the priest, and the priest would then look at them, examine them, and if everything was good, he would give them a clean bill of health and say, hey, you can rejoin society again. And so these guys, what they did was they started walking, which was a huge step of faith for them, because remember, they weren't healed. And some scholars believe that this journey to the priest would have taken them about 2.5 to 3 days. And so these guys believed that along the way to the priest, on the way to the priest, that somehow they would be healed. They had that much faith in Jesus. And so how I picture this happening in my mind is as these 10 guys were walking, one of them started feeling a sensation in his hands that he hadn't felt in years. And then another of them looked down at his foot and noticed that the toe that had been missing for years had suddenly grown back. And then another guy looked at the guy who was walking beside him and noticed that the ear that had been missing was suddenly now there. And they started looking at their skin and noticing that they were being slowly healed. Their skin was being restored. And at some point in the journey, they realized that we have been completely healed. And imagine being one of these 10 guys, being locked in a prison without any bars, being told that you cannot go and you cannot rejoin society, you have to stay away from everyone. And now you are healed. Imagine how happy, how ecstatic, how thrilled you would have been. And I can imagine that's how these guys felt. Because what this now meant was that they could go home again. They could go and hug their children again. They could kiss their husband or their wife. They could go back to the temple and connect with God. They could do the things that they had always wanted to do. Go out to their favorite restaurant, go bowling, whatever it was. Now they could do it again. And so I can imagine these guys didn't just keep walking towards that priest. They started all out sprinting because they wanted to get back to their lives. But this is what happened. It says that one of them, when he saw he was healed, he came back to Jesus, praising God in a loud voice, and he threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. And the fact is that the reason why it tells us that he's a Samaritan is that Jews and Samaritans didn't get along back then, and Jesus was a Jew. And for a Jew and a Samaritan, they considered each other enemies. Because how the Jews viewed Samaritans is that they viewed them as second-class citizens, as half-breeds who basically followed a knockoff religion. And yet it's this man who comes back to Jesus. And how I, again, picture this in my head is that these guys are running towards the priest, and this Samaritan stops dead in his tracks and tells the other 9, wait, guys, wait. And I can imagine the other 9 guys saying, what do you want us to wait for? Right? We want to get to that priest. And I can imagine this Samaritan man saying, I had to do something very important. I had to go back and I had to say thank you to Jesus. And if I was one of those 9 guys, I probably would have said to this Samaritan man, hey, why don't you just send him a text? Jesus will understand. But no, he turned around and he went back. And when he found Jesus, he collapsed at his feet. And I can imagine with tears streaming down his face, he said to him, thank you, thank you. You've connected me back to my family. You've connected me back to God. You've connected me back to life. And Jesus' response to this Samaritan man was, we're not all 10 cleansed. He asked him a series of questions. Where are the other 9? Where are your 9 friends? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner? It almost seems like Jesus expresses surprise, expresses a little bit of disappointment that he's the only one who came back. But the thing is that this Samaritan man, he did something incredible. And so the question that we have to ask is, what was different about what this guy did different than the other 9? And when we look at this story, it's not that this Samaritan man was grateful, because all of them were grateful. They had just been given a second lease on life. They were probably all grateful. But what was different about this one Samaritan guy was that he wasn't just grateful, he actually came back to express that gratitude. Because gratitude that's just simply felt doesn't mean a whole lot unless it moves us to express it in some manner, which this guy did. And honestly, when we hear that, we may think, oh, you know what? I already know that. I already get it. But the thing is that for many of us, including myself, we don't. Because if we did, as we move throughout our day, we would continually be saying, we would be continually expressing to the people around us, whether it's through our words, through the words that we write, through the words that we speak, we would be continually using those 2 words, thank you. That's what we would be saying if we truly got this. Because it's not enough to feel it, we have to express it. Express gratitude not only to the people around us, but also to God. Because this is an important truth about gratitude. Gratitude that's not expressed is not experienced. And what's even worse is when someone does something really kind for us and we don't say thank you, it can be experienced by that other person as rejection or even entitlement. It can come across as, you know what, I don't have to say thank you to you, right? I deserve it. Did you say thank you to your mom today? Why would I ever do that? She's my mom, she's supposed to do that. Did you say thank you to that guy on your team who's been working all of those hours, working so hard this week? Why would I do that? Right? He gets paid to do that. He's just lucky I hired him and that I keep him on. Again, it's not enough to feel gratitude. We have to figure out a way to express it. Regardless of whether we're an introvert or an extrovert, whether we feel comfortable expressing our emotions or not, we have to figure out a way to get the gratitude that we feel in here out to the people that we are actually grateful for. It's so important. And this past Wednesday, at the end of our staff meeting here at Troy, we were challenged before we left to actually go up to 3 different people and to express our appreciation and our gratitude for them. And I knew, at least for me, this would be really uncomfortable. It was gonna push me out of my comfort zone because I am not all that comfortable expressing or receiving emotion. And so the very first person I went up to was Michael King, who's our music director, and you see Michael almost every single week. And Michael is one of the most talented people I know. He's traveled all around the world. He's done some amazing, amazing things. But yet you would never know it because he's also one of the most humble people I know. And so I went up to him and I said this to him. And the whole time, couldn't look him in the eyes. I was looking at the wall right behind him. Right? I know, you're probably thinking, you got some problems. You need some professional help. And fact is, I probably do. And so that's what I did. And every single person that I talked to, that was the conversation. I didn't look him in the eyes, looking at the wall right behind him. And I also knew that there were other people who felt the same way, who felt really, really uncomfortable. But as we continued to do this, as we stepped out of our comfort zone and we expressed our gratitude towards one another, I felt something powerful happen in my heart as well as in the room. In that as we said thank you to one another, I felt that our love and appreciation for one another grow. We were reminded of the beauty present in one another, the image of God in each other. And we as people, as a team, were also drawn together. Because when we have the courage to express our gratitude, beautiful things are able to happen. And so when we look at our lives, who is someone that we take for granted? Or even as we look back on this day, this weekend, or even this past week, is there someone that we're reminded of who did something incredibly kind for us, but yet we failed to use those 2 magical words, thank you? What if today, after we got into the office tomorrow, What if we spent some time doing that? Writing them a note. And I'm not talking about a text, but a handwritten note. Or if we picked up the phone, or better yet, if we sat down and took a few moments to look them in the eyes to say thank you. My guess is that something powerful, something beautiful would result. And so that's what this Samaritan man did. He came back and he expressed his gratitude to Jesus. And as a result, Jesus pronounced something powerful over this man. But before we get to the last verse, what we actually want to do is we want to receive our offering for today. So ushers, if you want to come forward for that. And if you are a guest here with us, first of all, let me say welcome. We're really glad that you are here. It's a great weekend to be here. But please don't feel any obligation to give. But if you would like to give, our offering bags are going to be coming around, and we also have online options to give as well. You can give via our website or app, or you can text the word Kensington to 77977 as well. And if you are a guest, we'd love to meet you, love to connect with you afterwards if you have a moment. And we have something out in the lobby called the Hub, and you'll see people out there with bright orange shirts on, and we'd love to meet you, answer any questions that you may have, and also tell you a little bit more about our community. And so as I mentioned, Jesus said something incredible to this man after he came back. It says this, "Then Jesus said to him, 'Rise and go. Your faith has made you well.'" And in this passage, there are two words that are contrasted. There are two words that are juxtaposed. And it's the two Greek words that are translated, cleansed back in verse 14, and this word that we just read, made well, that's translated made well in this last verse. But in verse 14, sort of just to jog our memories, Jesus told these 10 lepers, "Go show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, it says that they were cleansed. And what it means to be cleansed is it means to be physically healed from a disease, which in this case was leprosy. And so all of these 10 men had been healed. But this one Samaritan guy comes back to Jesus, expresses his gratitude, and Jesus tells him, in that moment, he says, something more has happened to you. You've not only been cleansed, you have been made well. And what it means to be made well is to be made whole, complete. And what Jesus was telling this man is that you have experienced a deeper healing. And that you've received not only a physical healing, but a spiritual healing as well, which was the true gift. Because now this man's eyes were opened to the reality of who Jesus was. His heart was awakened to a deeper reality beyond this life. Because this guy came back and expressed his gratitude, there was this transformation that happened inside of him. He was made more whole. He was made more complete. You can also think of it as he was made in a greater way into the person who God created him to be. And that's because gratitude, this is what gratitude has the power to do. And that gratitude and appreciation produces transformation. And in this regard, you don't have to take my word for it. You don't even have to believe the Bible on this. Because there are so many studies that have been done in recent years that tell us exactly this, that gratitude has the power to change us. And this past week, I read a lot of those studies. And what some of these studies said was that gratitude, what it can do is that it can actually reduce feelings of anxiety and depression. It can reduce fatigue and inflammation, which actually reduces the risk of heart disease. It decreases stress. It promotes generosity. And if you've ever practiced gratitude for any sustained period of time, you understand this. It actually invites you and encourages you, compels you really to be more generous. And it also promotes feelings of self-worth and compassion. And I actually heard about a study 2 weeks ago. And in this study, it said that if we practice gratitude for 5 minutes a day, practice expressing it. We can go around and say thank you to people. We can write in our gratitude journal. But if we just do it for 5 minutes a day, it has the same effect on our long-term well-being and happiness as if someone was to just double our salary. And so say you go to work on Monday and your boss calls you in and she tells you, you have been doing such an incredible job. And so I'm just gonna double your salary. And so say if you make $50,000, now your salary is $100,000. And I can imagine that you would walk out a very, very happy person. And this is the effect of practicing gratitude for 5 minutes a day. It has the same impact on our lives. Because that is because when we express our gratitude, it has the power to transform. to make us more whole, to make us more complete. And I believe the reason is this. I believe it's based in a definition of gratitude. And this one pastor who's out in New York City named Rich Velotis, he gives a fantastic definition of gratitude. And this is what he said. He said, gratitude is an understanding that we are the recipients of goodness, as well as constantly coming back to the source of that goodness. And I love this definition because it reminds us that we have received good things in our lives. But it doesn't just simply stop there. It's not only recognizing that we have received good things, but also acknowledging and recognizing the source of that goodness, who is God. Because the scriptures tell us that every good and perfect gift is from above. And it's turning around and saying, Jesus, I recognize that the things, the incredible things that I have in my life are not because of me, but they come from you. And whenever we turn and whenever we orient our lives in a greater way towards Jesus, great things happen, transformative things happen in our lives. Whenever we do that and start walking towards him, we are made more whole, we are made more complete. That is why I believe when we actually express gratitude and do and actually exercise gratitude in this way, that is where the change comes from. And that's exactly what this Samaritan man did. He not only recognized that incredible goodness had entered into his life, but he went back to acknowledge the source of that goodness. And he went back and he worshiped Jesus. And that's exactly what's happening this weekend with all of our baptisms, with every single person who's getting in that tub and being baptized. And that they recognized that they have received a good gift, a great gift, something that they could never, ever do by themselves. And so today, what they're doing is that as they're getting baptized, one of the things that they're recognizing and acknowledging is that Jesus is the source of that goodness. Because one of the things that baptism is, it's an act of worship. Exactly what this Samaritan man did. And one of the people who are getting baptized at this service is a new friend of mine named Tessa. And Tessa has been kind enough to share her story for this entire weekend. And so Tessa, I want to invite you up one more time. And she has such a powerful story and she has been sharing it. And so as she comes up, can we give her a hand, everyone? Thanks, Sydney. Thanks again. And so you're all changed and ready to go. And so this is your time. You've been kind enough to be with us this entire weekend and share your story, which has been amazing. But I'd love for you to share one more time about just your journey, because your journey is pretty incredible. And one of the things that really, again, struck me about your story is that you said that for the longest time, for so many years, that you were searching for something, but yet you didn't know what it was or where to find it. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that.
So I was baptized when I was an infant. I grew up in a Lutheran community, went to a religious school, but the way that they perceived God, he was always a fearful God. He was always a God that would punish you, and it was basically you had to own up to God if you did anything wrong. So I strayed away from religion, and in my early adulthood, I felt this hole in my heart, and I was always searching for something to fix it. I turned to alcohol, just trying to numb the pain. I turned to any person I could find that I thought would fix it, even if temporarily, which led to me being in an abusive relationship for 2.5 years. And that relationship actually ended in assault, which had to be taken to the police and the justice system. And at that point, I was just a wreck. I felt like my world was spiraling. I thought of going back to church, but I was like, what kind of God would want me now? I am so broken and damaged goods. There's no way I would be accepted now.
And so this is how you were feeling, and this is how you were thinking that God looked at you as well, that he wouldn't accept you, that he couldn't use you. And then but you finally had the courage. You summoned up all this courage to actually come here. And you came on a Wednesday night to a midweek, and you encountered God in a powerful way. And it really started you on a journey where you said yes to following Jesus. And so tell us more about that.
So I had just started dating my boyfriend at the time, now fiance. And I talked to him, I was like, I'm really interested in religion, but I don't know where to start. And I feel like I can't go into the community right now. And so he suggested midweek. He was like, it's a very relaxed vibe. It's a lot of singing, just worshiping. He's like, you'll love it. And of course, I went in still anxious and worried about being judged.
And the very first video they showed in that service was a girl who said, I was anxious and I thought I was gonna be judged by everyone that I met, but I found a home in Kensington. And it was just, I knew that I was meant to be there at that time.
That's so cool. And so you've been on this journey, and really for the past handful of weeks, as we've been talking about baptism and saying, hey, you know what, we're gonna baptize people this week, you've sort of been feeling this nudge and thinking and sensing that, you know what, this is your week. But really the tipping point came for you 2 weeks ago in this room at one of our Sunday services, and where you had a powerful experience. And so share with us what happened.
Yeah, so I was in one of the first rows, and it was the last prayer of the session. And Danny Cox told us all to bow our heads, so I did, and I closed my eyes and folded my hands. And right as he started the prayer, I felt God's hands wrap around mine, and I felt this instant burst of joy that was so overwhelming. I almost was brought to tears, and I just it was such an out-of-body experience. So at the end of the prayer, Danny started talking about baptism. And he said, maybe you haven't thought about it before, but maybe this is your moment and this is your pull to be baptized. And I walked out of that church and I said, I'm getting baptized as soon as possible.
That's so cool. So today is your moment. Today is your week, and you're going to be getting in a little bit. But thank you so much for being here all weekend. Can we give her another hand? Thank you so much. So Tessa reminds us is talking about these nudges. And what we're gonna do is that if you feel a nudge, and maybe for some of us here, that we've felt that nudge, and that you came here thinking, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna be a part of a service, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna leave and just get on with my day. But for some of us here, God may have a different plan today. And that God may be nudging you and saying, you know what, just like Tessa, and just like many others who have walked forward today, that today is your day to get into that tub and to be baptized. And if that is you, I'm gonna invite you a little bit later on to come forward. And don't worry, we have extra t-shirts, we have extra towels, we got you covered on that end. But I wanna invite you to take that courageous step and to come forward. And the crazy thing is that Nancy Worm, who's our campus director, I was talking to her right before I got up here, and she told me that 2 people who were watching on stream this morning felt that nudge. And so they drove over here today because they said, you know what, I have to get into that tub. And so if you are watching on stream, we're gonna baptize people in like 5 minutes. So we wanna invite you, if you wanna be baptized, you feel that nudge and you're watching, get into your car, drive over here, and we will baptize you as well. Exactly. But as we really celebrate life transformation, something that we have to keep in mind about baptism is what baptism is that it's an external visible symbol of an internal invisible reality. And that word symbol is so important because there's nothing magical that happens in the water. And something that's important to keep in mind about baptism is that it doesn't make us a Jesus follower, but it symbolizes the fact that we already are. And when we are baptized, we are publicly declaring that we have made this decision, the most important decision that we can make in our lives. And when we are baptized, when we're immersed in the water, it symbolizes the fact that our old life before we met Jesus is dead and buried in the ground. And when we come up out of the water, it symbolizes the new life that we have in Jesus, that he has given us. And that is why we celebrate. That's why it's so powerful, and that's why we cheer. And so that's what we're gonna be doing in a few moments. And so first of all, I wanna pray, and then we're gonna take in a song, we're gonna sing a song that tells us that when we choose to follow Jesus, that he makes a new way for us. And then we're gonna celebrate baptisms by having people come, enter into that tank, and we're gonna baptize them. So would you join me in prayer? So God, we thank you. We thank you that you are so good to us. And I pray that this week, that as we move towards Thanksgiving, that we would spend a few moments just reflecting on your goodness in our life. And that it wouldn't just simply stop there, but that we would take that next step, as we just read in that definition of gratitude, that we would take that next step and acknowledge that you are the source of the goodness in our life, and acknowledge that and thank you for that as well. And we also want to thank you for the people who are here, who are getting baptized today. Thank you, Lord, for their stories. Thank you for the amazing, amazing things that you have done in their lives. But I also pray for anyone here, or even people watching on stream, God, and if that you are nudging them to come forward today, that they would get in their car right now and drive over here, Lord, or that they would get up out of their seats in a little bit and to be able to come forward as well. And so we thank you for your love. We thank you for your care for us, Lord. And we thank you for your work in our life, that you never give up on us. And we pray these things in your son's name. Amen.
Think about it, he's a way maker. Yeah, yeah. Oh. Way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 'Cause you are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're mending broken hearts. I worship you, Lord. Oh, I worship you. Come on, everybody, help us say, Waymaker, 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 miracle worker, miracle worker. He's a promise keeper. He's a light in the darkness. Yeah, my God, that is who you are. Jesus, you are. Waymaker, 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 miracle worker, promise keeper. He's a light in the darkness. My God. worshipers, I worship you. Jesus is here. We ask you to mend every broken heart. I worship you. Jesus, we worship you.
God, you've heard my story with Andrew, and you've heard my prayers. And I thank you for everything that you put me through, and for making me no longer believe that I am a mess or destined to not become anything. I now know that I am you. I am going to be molded into what you want me to be. And I am so grateful for everything that you put me through and everything you are going to bring to me.
My girlfriend introduced me to Kensington 6 years ago. My first service here was amazing and spiritual. I was able to heal and forgive after coming to Kensington. I was baptized an infant in Long Island, New York as Jean Marie Fitzgibbons. I legally changed my name several years ago, so today I am being baptized as Jean Marie Fitzgibbons at Kensington in Troy, Michigan.
I grew up in a very Christian family all my life and was even baptized as a baby. However, I never truly understood the amazing love God has for me and what it meant to give my life to Christ. But over the past year, I've begun to realize how incredible God is and how He has a plan for my life. I went through some rough times with my friendships about a year or two ago where I seemed to be treated badly by all the people I thought were my friends. I never understood why some of my friends seemed to forget about me and exclude me and why I didn't really fit in. I began to go to church more and more, and I soon found all the pieces falling into place. God brought amazing people into my life that I could tell were the true friends that I always wished I had. I realized that God allowed everything to happen for a reason. And He knew who He wanted in my life and who He didn't. And I thank Him for allowing everything to happen that did. Ever since, I've loved coming to church, and I always feel amazing knowing that the God of the universe loves me and has a plan for me through all the ups and downs. So I don't need to ever be afraid or feel alone, because I know that He is always by my side, and He loves me unconditionally.
These are beautiful stories, amazing, amazing stories. I'm not a mess, that I've found purpose and I found meaning when I found Jesus. And these are the themes these are the stories that we've been hearing the entire morning, really the entire weekend. And so it's such a huge privilege for us to be able to be a part of this, to be able to witness this, to be able to celebrate with the people who are getting baptized today. But at the same time, as people are going to be baptized, as they're being baptized, if you are somebody who feels that nudge and you feel the pull towards this tub today, and you believe that God is saying to you, this is your day, we want to invite you at this time to come forward. And we're going to sing a song, and Jalen's going to lead us in a moment. And during that song, I want to invite you, take that step. And over to my left, your right, there are a bunch of people here who will have a conversation with you, pray with you, who will be able to help you through that process. And so we want to invite you, if that is you, to take this courageous step and to come forward today.
They make a miracle. miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Come on, help me say waymaker, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, miracle worker. Come on, everybody, say it with us. Say you're light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. One more time, Waymaker, yes you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. You're the light in the darkness. That is who you are. The light in the darkness. Waymaker, miracle worker, I stand here, Jesus, needing you, Jesus. So I nail all my trust to the cross, Jesus, and you took it on the cross for me. Yes, you did. Oh, Jesus, Waymaker. Oh, Jesus, you died that I might live. Yes, you did. No, yeah. So I surrender all to you, Jesus. Oh, Waymaker, yeah. Miracle worker, promise keeper. You're the light. Oh, Waymaker, miracle worker. We call you Jesus. Your name is Jesus. Your name is great I am. You are Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Oh, Waymaker. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Yes, he does. Oh, thank you, Jesus. You are here. You're turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. Jesus is here. He's bending every broken heart. I worship you. I worship you. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only.
That's amazing. And this weekend has truly been an amazing weekend. And one of the people that just got baptized, Ronald, he was one of the ones who got in his car and said, you know what, I have to be baptized. And so he's the one who drove over here. And then Lena right now, she was one of the ones who just also said, hey, she was sitting in the seats and she said, I need to be baptized. And so she came forward, street clothes in all. And so it's been an amazing, amazing weekend. And so we want to say thank you so much for being here. But at the same time, if you need to go and get your kids, we want to be able to release you to do that as well. And so thank you so much for being here. And so we're going to continue to baptize people, but we want to dismiss all of you as well. But if anyone else is feeling the nudge, there's still time. So please come forward. And we want to invite you to come this Wednesday to midweek because it's going to be a powerful evening as well. But thanks so much for being here, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend.